Hi, guy, tonight we're trading your blanket for a woven mat, your pillows for a bundle of palm leaves, and your bedtime breeze for the thick humming breath of the jungle. You're not in Kansas or Kent or wherever it is you usually drift off. You're in the heart of a Maya city sometime around the 8th century, barefoot on limestone and already a little sweaty. Sorry about that. The tropics do not come with air conditioning. There's a scent in the air. Wood smoke, damp earth, roasted maize, and the unmistakable tang of civilization, doing its best to coexist with a rainforest full of jaguars, giant frogs, and mosquitoes that frankly should have their own names. You're about to explore a world of grand stone cities, Tikal, Palenque, Copan rising from the jungle like stories carved into mountains. But first, a quick reality check. You probably wouldn't survive this. The humidity alone might finish you off before breakfast. Still, there's no need to worry. You're only visiting. And before you fully sink into your pillow, a quick like and subscribe would mean the world if you're into sleepy stories like this. Got a strange bit of history you want to hear before bed? Drop it in the comments. Tuck yourself in, slow your breathing, and let the past keep you company tonight. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. So your feet hit the plaza floor. It's cool in the early light, smoothed by generations of sandals. These limestone streets don't clatter like cobblestone. They absorb sound, reflecting only the shush of movement, an early riser brushing palm fronds, a dog sniffing for breakfast, the faint echo of a priest already deep in morning chants. The city doesn't sprawl. It flows, temples rising like hill-stepped pyramids striped with shadow palaces tucked behind carved walls that shimmer with lime plaster paint, faded by sun and time. You pass a stela, an upright stone slab carved with glyphs, and the stern face of a long-dead ruler wearing enough jade to sink a canoe. His eyes follow you. Or maybe that's just your imagination. It's early. The buildings here weren't just homes or tombs. They were conversation starters, status symbols, timekeepers, storytellers. And you're part of the story now. The jungle presses in lush and green, but never chaotic. The Maya didn't fight it, they worked with it, channeled it, managed the land like a gardener who also happens to be a mathematician, with a flair for the dramatic. You stroll past rows of stone homes with thatched roofs, smoke curling from breakfast fires. Children giggle behind woven screens. A woman sprinkles water on packed earth floors to cool the dust. Your own sleeping space wasn't much, just a hammock between posts, maybe a cotton blanket if you were lucky, and a soft murmur of frogs singing like backup singers for a thunderstorm. But the view, you had sky. Endless open sky, and trees taller than temples. And somewhere beyond the palms, the first light touches the highest step of the main pyramid, igniting it like a beacon. Historians still argue whether these cities were purely ceremonial centers or fully inhabited urban hubs. From where you stand, it feels like both. Sacred and mundane, loud with meaning, quiet with mourning. You pass a group of women grinding maize stone on stone muscle, memory, and rhythm. They nod. One offers you a small, warm tortilla still steaming, wrapped in a banana leaf. You accept, because not doing so would be both rude and historically inaccurate. The day is just beginning. The air is thick with promise and maybe a hint of rain. And you, visitor, dreamer, honorary time traveler, walk through this place not as a tourist, but as someone invited to feel the weight of the stone, the heat of the sun, the heartbeat of a world still whispering under the roots of trees. So lie back now. Let the stone plazas stretch beneath your feet. Let the temples rise around you like ancient lullabies in limestone. And listen, this city remembers you, even if you're only just arriving. You wake to the smell of warm corn and roasted squash. Not a bad way to start your day, especially considering the alternative could have been jaguar breath or a rebellious howler monkey. Today, guy, you're having breakfast Maya style, and that means maize. Always maize. Glorious, golden, ever-present maize. You sit up on your woven mat as the household fire crackles nearby, tucked into a clay-lined hearth on the packed earth floor. The air is still hazy with wood smoke and steam. Outside, the sky is turning its second shade of pink. You stretch and shuffle over to the kitchen space, which is not a separate room, by the way. It's more of a corner with three large stones arranged into a triangle and a flat griddle balanced across the top. The fire beneath it hisses gently, licking the pan's edges with practiced ease. On the griddle, tortillas, fresh ones. The dough is made from nixtamalized maize, which sounds fancy, but really it's just dried corn kernels boiled with lime. Not the fruit, the mineral, and ground into dough called masa. This process makes the corn easier to digest, more nutritious, and frankly much tastier. Plus, it smells amazing, like warm rain on a good day. Your host, an elderly woman with forearms of steel and the no-nonsense expression of someone who's been up since before you were even born, presses a fresh tortilla into your hand. It burns a little. That's how you know it's good. Breakfast here is simple, but deeply satisfying. You might start with tamales, corn dough wrapped around bean squash or chili paste, then steamed in banana leaves until soft. Maybe you'll add some ground seeds or crushed avocado if someone's been feeling fancy. And then there's cacao. Yes, chocolate, but not the milky sweet stuff. This is bitter, spiced, and sacred. It's whisked with water using a carved stick until it froths, then poured from one clay cup to another from a height that suggests flair was very much encouraged. The result? A rich, foamy drink served cold with a kick of chili or vanilla or allspice, depending on mood and moodiness of the cook. You sip. It's intense. You feel both blessed and slightly challenged. Cacao wasn't just food, it was ceremony, currency, a gesture of hospitality, respect, and in some cases, political charm. You don't say no to a cacao cup unless you also want to say no to friendship trade and potentially the gods. Historians still argue whether cacao was more widely consumed by elites or if commoners got their fair share. You're not here to settle the debate. You're here to drink your breakfast and not spill it on your only tunic. Outside, the plaza is stirring. Vendors set up makeshift tables with calabash bowls full of chili paste, sour orange juice, and toasted pumpkin seeds. A child nibbles on a roasted grasshopper with casual expertise. You try one. It's crunchy, vaguely nutty, and better than your expectations, which, to be fair, were not high. Food isn't just fuel, it's rhythm. Prepared together, eaten together. Every meal a small ceremony of daily survival and social grace. You take another tortilla this time, wrapped around mashed black beans and a sprinkle of salt. It's portable, practical, and perfectly warm in your hand. You wander a little as you chew. Past painted walls with glyphs, past women sweeping with palm brooms, past someone chuckling in a hammock, while peeling fruit with a knife that's older than your best excuses. Even food scraps are sacred. Offerings of maize beans and cacao are tucked at the base of trees beside doorways and into cracks in the stone. Small gifts to the spirits, the gods, the ancestors who watch with both curiosity and suspicion. You finish your tortilla and pat your belly. Breakfast in the Maya world didn't come with bells and alarms. It came with the sun, the smell of smoke, the sound of stone grinding against stone, and the feeling always that food wasn't just eaten. It was shared. It was blessed. It was life folded in a tortilla and passed into your hand with a look that said, "This is ours." So rest now, bellyful head light with cacao and spice. Let the flavors melt into your thoughts, and let the quiet begin again. You run your hand over your forehead as the sun climbs higher, and you can feel the heat settling in thick, slow, and pressing. But that's not what draws your attention in the plaza today. It's the shine, the shimmer, the bold, deliberate elegance on every passing brow. Because, Guy, this morning you've walked into a crowd of people who take beauty very seriously. And by seriously, we mean with obsessive creativity, ritual commitment, and a toolkit that includes jade bone and deliberate cranial reshaping. Let's begin at the top of your head. In the Maya world, a long, sloped forehead wasn't just fashionable, it was ideal. Children's skulls were gently bound between padded boards shortly after birth while the bones were still soft. This was not cruelty, it was culture. To the Maya, that graceful slope mirrored the shape of the maize god's head, and nothing could be more beautiful than that. Your own forehead remains obstinately rounded. The local children giggle. Next up, your eyes. Cross-eyed fabulous. Children from noble families sometimes wore small beads suspended from their hair to dangle in front of their faces, training their gaze slightly inward. A touch of divine intensity, if you will. You try it briefly and nearly trip over a turkey. Then the teeth. Now this one's memorable. Elite Maya didn't just clean their teeth, they decorated them. Small jade plugs were drilled into their front teeth, carefully and with astonishing dental skill. The result, a dazzling green sparkle every time they smiled. Some also filed their teeth to sharp points or pleasing shapes. A noblewoman passes you smiling with delicate fang-like incisors that make her look like an elegant, well-dressed jaguar. You nod respectfully. The effect is both fierce and beautiful. And it doesn't stop there. Ears, lips, and noses were pierced and adorned with shell bone and jade. The elite wore elaborate headdresses that doubled as status symbols and backache generators. Feathers from quetzal birds shimmered in hues of green so vibrant they practically glowed. Even skin color was carefully cultivated. Maya texts and murals show a clear color preference, reddish-brown for men, pale yellow for women. Whether through makeup, sun exposure, or herbal scrubs, people work to maintain these aesthetic ideals. You rub your arms and wonder what category you fall into. Slightly dusty beige, perhaps. Historians still argue whether these beauty practices were strictly class-based or more widely embraced. But the deeper truth is these weren't just fashion statements. They were markers of identity, of belief, of cosmic alignment. To reshape the head to wear jade across your eyes, these things said I belong. To a lineage, a city, a world of gods and glyphs. You pause near a young girl having her hair braided into an intricate pattern. Each knot and twist is part of a larger code age status occasion. The smell of copal incense drifts by, clinging to the air like soft perfume. You pass a stone mirror set in obsidian and catch a glimpse of yourself. Your hair is messy, your tunic slightly wrinkled, no jade in your teeth, no headdress on your brow. And yet you feel part of it now, this pageantry, this visual poetry that dances quietly across every face. You sit down near a group of women painting glyphs onto cloth. One of them draws a small dot on her cheek. A beauty mark, a symbol. Both. In this world, symbols and self-presentation blend so completely that even your shadow seems to mean something. You lean back. Let the sun catch your bare forehead. It's round, yes. But in this moment, under this sky on this plaza, full of glimmering eyes and sculpted silhouettes, you feel just strange enough to belong, and strangely beautiful. You followed the scent of damp stone and warm corn down a narrow path framed by low walls, and now you're stepping into two worlds at once. To your left, a simple home, modest and open, with a palm-thatched roof and walls of woven sticks daubed with mud. To your right, a noble compound, all carved facades, wide plazas, and shadows deep enough to hide the weight of centuries. Because today, Guy, you're slipping between classes, peeking into how the Maya lived, from humble huts to royal residences and all the rituals in between. Let's start with the home on the left. The floor is cool, packed earth. The walls breathe. This isn't a sealed chamber, it's a living structure meant to move with wind and time. You duck under the low doorframe and stand up just in time to see the last glow of embers in the hearth. Tucked into the center of the floor like a sleeping heartbeat, three large stones form the cooking fire. A clay pot bubbles gently filled with beans, maybe squash. A young child stirs it with serious concentration and the occasional look of defiance. A chicken wanders in, looks unimpressed, and leaves again. Beds aren't separate from the room. They're woven mats or simple wooden frames pushed to one side and covered with cotton blankets. Pillows, possibly. Hammocks. Yes, especially in warmer areas, cooler, cleaner, and easier to roll out of when a dog decides to sleep beneath you. Shelves are rare, but hooks abound. You see bundles of herbs gourds, cooking tools, even a carved flute hanging from the beams. Light filters in through a small smoke hole, painting soft patches of sun onto the floor. This house holds warmth and noise and memory. Now step to the right. The noble compound is cool and echoing with limestone walls carved so deeply you can run your finger through the story of a battle that happened before your grandmother's grandmother learned to plant maize. This is not just a home, it's a canvas. Murals dance across the plaster jaguars, king celestial snakes, and women in flowing headdresses offering bundles of incense. The walls are painted in reds, yellows, deep blues. Colors drawn from minerals, flowers, and strange alchemy only the scribes fully understand. Inside there are rooms, not just one. A chamber for sleeping, a room for storing tribute, a space for rituals, maybe even a private steam bath at Temazcal built of stone and sweat and belief. You peek in and smell the sharp mix of hot rocks and crushed herbs. It smells like healing and second chances. The elite slept on raised platforms with mats and layers of cloth. Their bedding was soft but never decadent. Even kings woke with sore backs. There's a carved headrest by one bed like a small wooden bridge. You try to lie on it, immediately regret it. Beauty is pain. And what about stuff? Both households have tools grinding stones for maize clay pots, gourd bowls. But the noble home also holds jade jewelry books of bark paper and musical instruments crafted from bone and shell. A flute lies on a carved stool, silent but waiting. You pause to take it all in. The contrast is real but not cruel. Even the simplest homes are rich in spirit. Every space is built with intention walls to let smoke out fire in the center family at the edges. There are no wasted corners. Historians still debate whether Maya cities had rigid class separations or if movement between classes was more fluid. But from where you stand, the lines are both visible and blurred. You leave the noble residence and return to the village lane. A group of children runs past you chasing a feather tied to a stick. A woman waves you over to taste her tamale. A man adjusts a solar marker in the ground, outside his hut casually aligning time like it's part of today's chores. The elite might carve their names in stone, but here in the everyday spaces, a life is carved into habit, into warmth, into the rhythm of waking and working and resting with the people you know best. You sit on the low step of a house that smells like ash and squash and sleep. And for a while, you're not a visitor. You're just someone with dust on your feet, sun on your face, and the slow understanding that home doesn't need grandeur. It just needs memory. You hear it before you see it. Laughter, bargaining, a rhythmic clap of hands shaping tortillas, the tinkling clatter of shells and stones in wooden bowls. You've stumbled into the heartbeat of Maya Daily Life Guy Market Day, and it's glorious. No paved roads, no currency booths, no piped-in lute music. Just dust sunlight and the constant murmur of trade gossip and chili peppers so strong you can feel them through your nose. The marketplace isn't grand, it's practical. Set in an open plaza near the city's center, it spills across flagstones and dirt like a living tapestry. Merchants squat behind woven mats or stand beside baskets, their wares arranged with both pride and easy access. Let's take a lap, shall we? You pass a woman selling salt cake small hard blocks, used not just for cooking but as currency. Trade doesn't run on coins here. It runs on cacao beans, salt cotton cloth, and occasionally dried fish if someone's desperate or fond of strong aromas. Further along, you find a man selling turkeys. The birds look offended to be for sale. One of them eyes you like it's memorizing your weaknesses. You move on. Next, textiles. A rainbow of woven cotton, dyed with cochineal red, indigo blue, and mossy greens, made from who knows what. The patterns tell stories of lineage city trade routes. You pick up a tunic. It's soft, strong, and more fashionable than anything in your current wardrobe. You make a mental note, ancient shopping spree, highly recommended. The air is thick with the scent of roasted chilies, honeyed squash, and the sharp tang of fermented cacao drink cooling in clay jugs. You sip one. It tastes like ambition and someone's grandma's advice, a bit bitter, a bit wise. In the corner, a boy sells obsidian blades, shards of volcanic glass so sharp they can slice skin without a sound. You consider buying one until he mentions it's also used in ritual bloodletting. You quietly put it down. The market isn't just a place to buy, it's a stage. A storyteller spins a tale to a ring of children, acting out a cosmic chicken battle with admirable flair. A group of traveling merchants from another city-state, maybe Calakmul, unrolls their bundles with practiced showmanship. One of them carries dried shrimp wrapped in woven grass. It smells brave. Near the edge of the market, a man reads glyphs painted onto folded bark paper. He's a scribe, maybe a calendar reader. You catch a glimpse of a date, a 13 Baktun count. Big day. He shrugs. Could just mean rain. A priest passes through the crowd nodding. He blesses a basket of corn with a quick flick of copal smoke, the incense rising in lazy curls above the din. You catch a whiff, sweet, resinous, sacred. Historians still debate how large and structured Maya markets were. Some believe each city had a central market. Others suggest many smaller ones scattered across neighborhoods. But all agree they were vital, not just for food, but for news, matrimonial arrangements, spy work. You overhear two women arguing over chili paste while subtly exchanging rumors about a marriage proposal gone sour and a priest who talks in his sleep. You lean in, pretending to admire tubers. A young girl offers you a small clay whistle shaped like a bird. You blow it. It shrieks like a duck caught in theological debate. She grins. You buy it. And then as the sun climbs higher, the market slows. Merchants recline under shade cloths. Buyers drift home, baskets full, bellies fuller. The plaza quiets but doesn't fall silent. The market never really ends, it just rests. You find a spot under a tree, your new whistle in hand. Your bag now suspiciously full of tamales, dried hibiscus, and what may or may not be a fertility charm you didn't ask. And as you lean back, full of color, sound, and the distinct tickle of chili still on your tongue, you realize something. In the Maya world, trade wasn't just economic. It was social glue, sacred rhythm, a daily performance of survival tradition and community theater complete with spicy snacks. And on this particular day, you've played your part beautifully. You follow a trail of soft laughter and the unmistakable swish slap of wet cloth. And before long, you find yourself on the riverbank, where the real news of the city flows faster than the water itself. Welcome, Guy, to the Laundry Zone. Part wash house, part town. Square part live podcast where Maya women gather to clean their clothes and each other's reputations. The river is cool, shaded by drooping trees whose roots curl like sleepy snakes into the bank. You step carefully. The stones are smooth, polished by centuries of sandals and soap. At first glance, it's all practical tunics draped over branches. Clay jugs of water arranged like musical notes, a rhythm of slapping fabric against stones that somehow feels like a hymn to hygiene. But listen closer. This isn't just a chore. It's theater. One woman squats knee-deep in the water, her arms strong from decades of wringing out cotton, soaked in river and sweat. She speaks without pausing her scrubbing, and then he said the cacao was cursed. Cursed. The others gasp the way only seasoned gossip professionals can. Laundry, you realize, is merely the opening act. A teenage girl nearby is pounding a tunic against a rock with more enthusiasm than technique. A cluster of toddlers splash in the shallows, occasionally trying to drink the soap bubbles. One of them wears a feather like a crown. No one questions it. Soap, by the way, isn't store-bought. It's made from crushed plant roots, soap bark agave, calabash pulp mixed into a paste and stored in gourds. The scent is earthy green and slightly judgmental. Washing clothes here is a group ritual. The city's elite may have indoor courtyards with stone basins, but for most people this river is where textiles and tails get cleansed. There's a rhythm to it all. Soak, scrub, slap, rinse, ring. Repeat! A tunic floats past. Someone retrieves it without even looking. The children try to help. One of them nearly flings a sandal into a tree. The group barely reacts. This is normal. You squat beside a particularly bubbly cluster of women. They hand you a tunic gesture toward the river and offer no further instructions. You do your best. You are immediately demoted to rinsing leaves out of sandals. Still, it's an honor. One woman leans over, brushing her hair with a carved comb. The teeth are worn but functional. Her hair, glossy and thick, falls like a black waterfall over her shoulder. She hums. The melody catches. Others join. It becomes a kind of work song. Not loud, not planned, just natural. You hum too. Why not? And then the stories really start. Dreams are shared. A strange omen, a bird with no shadow, causes ripples of speculation. A cousin's new tunic is analyzed with forensic intensity. Someone's son tried to flirt with a scribe's daughter by pretending to fall into a cenote. It didn't work. He's now grounded and wet. Historians still argue whether gossip was a structured form of social management or simply the side effect of collective labor. But you know the truth, it's both. Because in this place, trust is built between buckets and brushstrokes. Secrets are floated like leaves, lightly, lazily, just far enough downstream to feel safe. The sun climbs. Clothes are rinsed and wrung, folded and flung onto branches to dry in the breeze. Children nap in wet tunics. Women stretch their backs, chatting about dinner dreams and whether the priest's dog is possessed again. You finish your rinsing task mostly successfully and sit back on the rocks. The river hums. So do you. This isn't just clean laundry. It's clean time. Shared, sung, soaked in sunlight and suds. And as you lie back on the warm stones, letting the chatter flow over you like water, you smile. Because even here in the quiet heart of a noisy city, you've found the lullaby of real life. Slap, swish, laugh, and rest. You wander into a room that smells like charcoal and damp bark. Light slants through a narrow opening in the stone wall, casting long shadows across a low bench, a stack of folded cloth, and something remarkable, a strip of tree bark being turned into a book. Today, Guy, you're sitting cross-legged beside a Maya scribe, and it's about to get satisfyingly quiet, incredibly intricate, and faintly inky. You might want to tie your hair back. Ink stains are forever. The room isn't big, but it pulses with purpose. There's no shouting, no clamor, just the scratch thwip of brush against paper and the occasional grunt when someone forgets to keep their elbow out of the paint pot. The scribe next to you, young, focused, sporting an elaborate jade ear spool that could double as a saucer, glances at you and gestures, "Don't breathe on the ink." Right, got it. This is a scribal school, or at least a scribal corner, and the air is thick with genius and powdered pigment. In Maya society, scribes were more than record keepers. They were gatekeepers of memory, historians, astronomers, artists, And sometimes politicians with amazing handwriting. Only the elite, especially boys from noble families, got to train as scribes. Though some exceptional girls, usually from priestly lineages, were brought in too. If you were smart, focused, and had steady hands, welcome to the glyph life. The materials are simple but sacred. Writing is done on ametal paper made from inner bark pounded soft, then coated with a fine white wash. It feels slightly bumpy under your fingers, like suede that remembers rain. Ink is made from charcoal crushed minerals or even bug shells. Hello cochineal. Brushes are fine hairs or split reeds. You pick one up. It's delicate. You feel 42% more powerful just holding it. The page in front of the scribe is already half filled with glyphs, beautiful, boxy, curved, and complex. Every symbol is a thought, a story, a god, a calendar date, or possibly a warning about eating too many fermented papayas. You ask what he's writing. He shrugs. Record of tribute, also poetry. Of course. Why not both? You glance around the room and see stacks of codices, folded bark books painted in bold colors. These aren't just records. They're living documents charting eclipses, trade agreements, royal lineages, myth cycles, and possibly snack inventories. There's a separate scroll on a side bench titled, Things My Cousin Said That Were Definitely Lies. You're not sure if it's official or personal, maybe both. The scribes also track time. And by time we mean the sacred calendar, a 260-day cycle known as the Tzolk'in used for everything from farming to naming babies. It blends 20-day signs with 13 numbers in a rotating matrix of cosmic significance and mild confusion. Today is 8 Khan, or maybe 8 Etznab. You've forgotten already. The scribe corrects you with a look of gentle pity and passes you a cheat sheet. You try drawing a glyph. It looks like a startled armadillo. The scribe nods politely, then paints over it. Historians still argue whether scribes held priestly power or served more bureaucratic roles. In truth, they were both. They held knowledge. They could read the heavens. They knew how to spell chili debt and marriage alliance with equal grace. A student nearby is copying a list of tribute items, bundles of cacao woven cloth obsidian blades, and a really nice jaguar pelt. You wonder who gets to receive that. You also wonder how much lint a jaguar pelt collects in the dry season. As the afternoon drifts on, the scribe begins to narrate aloud, chanting the glyphs as he paints them. It's not just reading, it's performance. Like the words aren't complete until they're heard. You close your eyes. The cadence is slow hypnotic. Each syllable lands like a footstep on old stone. And as the voices blend, as brush touches bark with reverence and repetition, you feel it. You're not just witnessing a script. You're inside a story. A living, breathing archive built not of paper and pride, but of people who believed that writing was a kind of magic. You breathe it in. The ink, the rhythm, the knowledge. And then very gently, you do not breathe on the ink. You're standing in a courtyard watching a boy trace dots into the dirt with a stick. At first, it looks like a game counting beans maybe, or preparing for a particularly competitive round of Jaguar hopscotch. But then you look closer. It's math. And Guy, you're about to fall headfirst into the beautifully calm, oddly elegant, and wildly underrated world of Maya. Numbers a system so graceful it's almost soothing. No pressure. No subtraction panic. Just dots bars and the comforting presence of zero hundreds of years before Europe even gave it the time of day. The boy glances at you. He draws a dot 1, another dot 2, 3 dots, then a bar, a long horizontal line drawn beneath the dots. That's 5. Another bar 10. Now a dot above the bars 11. Simple, neat, modular. Base 20 like fingers and toes, literally. You sit down beside him. He draws a shell. That's 0. 0. Not nothing, not absence, but a symbol A concept and anchor point? It's hard to overstate how radical that was. The Maya weren't just playing with pebbles. They were charting time engineering cities and mapping Venus using a system that still feels like it belongs in the future. And it's quiet too. This isn't math barked from a lectern. It's not shouted across dusty schoolyards or scribbled angrily in the margins of failing tests. It's taught with rhythm, dots placed one at a time, bars stacked patiently. A system that rewards calm. A priest nearby is carving numbers into a limestone stair. Maybe a calendar count. Maybe tribute ode. Maybe the running total of how many times his apprentice has spilled ink this week. You wander over. He's explaining the long count calendar to a pair of young scribes. Start date, August 11th, 3114 BCE. Yes, really. That's when the current age began. According to Maya belief, it was the birth of this world cycle. And from that moment, they've been counting day by day, Baktun by Baktun, through a vast and poetic span of time. You peek at the glyphs. They stack vertically base 20 with the exception of the third level, which uses base 18. Why lunar cycles, probably? Or maybe just to keep future scholars on their toes. Historians still argue over whether Maya calendrics were purely ritual or had everyday function. You watch a merchant consult a daykeeper before scheduling a journey. Looks pretty practical from here. And beyond utility, there's beauty in it. Each number has meaning. Each day has character. You could be born on Forajaw, the day of the sun, marked for leadership. Or 7 Ik, the day of wind, clever, maybe a bit too clever. Names, omens, rituals, all orbiting around the soft click of days sliding into place. You close your eyes and hear it. The slow turn of time. Not a ticking clock, but a series of breath-like beats. Dot, dot, bar, shell. It's meditative. The boy draws a full calendar round in the dirt beside you, his fingers dusty precise. He's not hurrying. He's aligning something invisible. Something important. You copy one of the bars. It's uneven. The boy smiles. You try again, and again, until it feels like a mantra. Because in this world, numbers aren't stress. They're structure. They're stories. They're peace. You lean back on your elbows, watching the sun reach the edge of the courtyard wall. A shell, a dot, a bar. Time slides past gently. And you're right in sync. You hear it before you see it. A low, rhythmic pounding thum, 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 like the heartbeat of the earth echoing off stone and vine. You follow the sound through rows of maize and tangled squash vines until you reach a clearing where something beautiful is happening. The Maya are farming, but not just planting rows and hoping for the best. They're performing a ritual equal parts agriculture, astronomy, and choreography with drums. Tonight, Guy, you're learning how to plant corn by moonlight to music, and in full cooperation with a universe that demands to be consulted before it lets anything grow. You step into the clearing and immediately someone hands you a digging stick, a long, polished branch with a fire-hardened point. Not metal. The Maya didn't use plows, too destructive for this soil, too disrespectful to the land. Here you plant by hand, and only at the right time. A daykeeper, an elder whose job it is to read the sacred calendar, has already determined this is a favorable night. Not just because of the moon's phase-waxing crescent, helpful for new things, but because today's date and the 260-day Tzolk'in Tenkan, the day of the maize seed, is perfect. Corn isn't just a crop. It's kin. The maize god is one of the central figures in Maya belief, planted, cut, eaten, reborn. You don't just sow a field, you wake an ancestor. The community gathers in a loose circle. You somehow have been handed a gourd of balche, a mildly fermented honeyed drink. You sip. It's sweet, tangy, a little earthy. You feel your body slow down, settle. Then the drums start. Not loud. Not wild. Just steady, measured. A thum with every second breath. People begin to dance, feet in the soil, slowly turning the ground. Each step presses seeds deeper. Each movement invites rain. This isn't performance, it's agriculture as ceremony. Someone sings. You don't understand the words, but you understand the tone. It's low grounding, a lullaby for the land, a wake-up song for sleeping seeds. Historians still argue how much of Maya agriculture was driven by ritual versus technique. But here, watching people sow by moonlight to the beat of old songs, the answer is simple, it's both. They knew how to farm. They built raised fields terraces and complex irrigation systems in lowland swamps and on steep hillsides. They grew maize, yes, but also beans, squash, chili peppers, amaranth, avocados, cacao, and cotton. You name it, they probably cultivated it with elegance in a timetable consulted via stars. Someone claps their hands 3 times. Clap, 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 and the drumming shifts. The pace slows. A basket of seeds is passed around. You take a handful. Warm, dry, slightly dusty. Life waiting for instruction. You step forward. Press your digging stick into the earth. Drop 3 seeds in. Cover them with your heel. Step back. That's it. But it's not just it. It's a promise. Tomorrow there will be rain. Or not. Either way, the seed has been given its place. After planting, the group forms a circle. A priest offers a small bundle of herbs to the fire. It crackles, sending up a thin trail of white smoke that smells like pine and thyme. You sit on the edge of the circle, watching firelight flicker off stone tools and sun-worn faces. Someone hands you roasted squash wrapped in a leaf. You chew slowly, respectfully, and above you the moon watches, half-formed and wholly aware. This isn't modern agriculture. It's not profit-driven. It's not noisy. It's not rushed. It's a relationship, built on repetition, observation, and just enough faith to trust that one kernel in the dirt might become dinner in 4 months. You lie back in the dirt. Look up at the stars, and feel it not a field but a system. A world where growth requires music math and people who know when to dance and when to wait. The drums fade, the fire dims, the seeds sleep, and so do you. Smoke drifts low over the plaza. It's not from cooking fires this time or the usual burning of brush out by the maize fields. This smoke smells sweeter, thicker, and distinctly sacred. The kind that sticks to your clothes and your dreams. You're at the edge of a ceremony, guy, and the gods are listening. Tonight, we meet some of the most complex, colorful, and absolutely extra members of Maya society, the deities. And their fan club, priests, dancers, musicians, and half the city in paint and feathers. The sun's dipped behind the temple, and the first stars peek down like curious spirits. The plaza flickers with torchlight. You sit cross-legged near the back, wrapped in a cotton shawl that smells faintly of pine. People gather quietly as if the gods are already here. At the center, a small stone altar rises from the platform, surrounded by pots of copal incense, cacao beans, flowers, and several bowls filled with offerings, corn tamales, and what looks like a bundle of feathers soaked in honey. A priest steps forward. He's cloaked in jade and embroidered cloth with a headdress that looks like someone convinced a bird in a cloud to start a band. His face is painted half blue, half black, and he carries a rattle that jingles with each step. He lifts his arms. The people go still, and the stories begin. Tonight's ceremony is for Chak the rain god, who, let's be honest, is a bit moody but absolutely essential. Without rain, the maize dies. Without maize, the people starve. So, naturally, everyone wants to keep Chak happy. Very happy. A group of dancers enters the plaza. Their feet slap the stone in complex rhythms. Their arms slice the air like wind through palm leaves. They wear masks shaped like snakes, frogs, and jaguars, animals that whisper between worlds. And then you hear it. A low, deep whoosh. They've lit copal tree resin prized for its thick, fragrant smoke. It rises in white tendrils curling through the dancers, catching the light, blurring the line between real and not. The priest calls on Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, god of wind and vision and confusing bedtime stories. His voice is strong, almost song-like, but it doesn't shout. It carries like wind does. You catch phrases, keeper of sky, mouth of water. We offer breath and steam. You don't need to understand every word. The cadence is enough. It's not a speech, it's a negotiation with the divine. A young boy steps forward with a bowl of chocolate. It's poured onto the altar thick and steaming. The priest dabs a bit onto his fingers, flicks it toward the east, the west, the heavens. Then a woman brings maize. 3 cobs still warm from roasting laid gently beside the chocolate. The idea isn't to feed the gods like dinner guests. It's to offer essence, the first bite, the best bean, the cleanest breath. A symbolic thank you, and a hopeful please. Historians still debate whether ceremonies like this were mostly public theater or private ritual made visible. You sit here now, heartbeat matching drumbeat, and it feels like both. A child beside you whispers the name of Ixchel, goddess of the moon, and weaving and midwives. Her mother prayed to her during childbirth. Her grandmother still leaves thread bundles at her shrine during full moons. The child offers you a flower, you take it. The night deepens. The priest throws handfuls of petals into the fire. The dancers whirl. The smoke thickens. Your thoughts start to blur. You think of rain thick, heavy, rhythmic. You think of wind gentle but strong, rustling feathers and grass and secrets. You think of gods not as distant figures, but as daily companions heard in storms, glimpsed in shadows, tasted in the first bite of tamale. And you understand maybe for the first time that belief here isn't abstract. It's not only prayers whispered in private. It's performance, partnership, presence. The ceremony begins to slow. The music softens. The smoke thins. And one by one, people return home quietly, reverently, as though carrying something fragile in their arms. You sit a little longer. The fire still glows. The gods you suspect are still listening. And so you offer your own breath to the sky. Soft, steady, grateful, you wake to shouting. But not angry shouting. Excited shouting, rhythmic, celebratory. The kind of shouting that involves feathers, drums, and the occasional rubber ball flying dangerously close to someone's face. Welcome, Guy, to the ball court, a place where sport, politics, myth, and sweat all come together in one echoing, sun-baked arena. Because today you're watching the Maya ball game. And no, this is not pickup basketball. It's older, heavier, sacred, and weirdly stylish. The ball court isn't hidden. It's central. You pass under a carved stone arch, the walls sloping inward on either side, like an ancient amphitheater flanked by glyphs and stelae telling the stories of heroes, ancestors, and a guy named Balaam, who may have single-handedly invented showboating. The court stretches long and narrow with stone rings set high up on the walls. They look just big enough for a ball to pass through if that ball were launched by a gymnast, with the timing of a thunderclap and the leg strength of a small jaguar. And that's the goal. Kind of. Sort of. Historians still argue over exact rules because Maya scribes didn't leave behind a rule book, just a lot of dramatic murals and very smug-looking statues. But here's what you do know. 2 teams face off, maybe 3 to 5 players each. They're shirtless, gleaming with sweat, and wearing elaborate padded gear on their hips, elbows, and knees. Not because it looks cool, though it absolutely does, but because they hit the ball using only their hips, thighs, elbows, or knees. No hands. No feet. Just joint-based wizardry. The ball itself made of solid rubber from latex tapped from trees and mixed with vine juice to give it bounce. It's dense, heavy, and capable of breaking bones if you're not paying attention. You stay respectfully behind the safety line. The game begins. A drum pounds once. The ball is served, bounced, not thrown, and the game begins with a volley that seems more dance than sport. Every strike, every twist of the body, every grunted exhale feels choreographed and competitive at the same time. This is not just about winning. It's about balance. Cosmic order? The ball represents the sun or the moon or the head of a god, depending on who you ask and how much sleep you've had. The players represent forces of the universe order: chaos, light, dark. You squint. Are they playing for points or prophecy? Someone scores. Or seems to. A player hip slams the ball toward the wall and it skims just under the stone ring. There's an eruption of cheers, and one of the musicians by the court raises a conch shell and blows a long, wobbly note. A priest nearby nods solemnly. He's not watching the game, he's watching the sky, because some matches are tied to celestial events. Eclipses, solstices, equinoxes. The rhythm of the ball mimics the movement of planets, or so the stories go. You feel a strange chill despite the heat, like time is folding. The crowd's energy rises. People chant. Drums pound. A player leaps and whips his hip into the ball with a twist that looks physically impossible. It arcs, soars, and swish right through the ring. The crowd erupts. The team piles on the scorer. The opposing team nods tired but not bitter. Everyone knew what this game was. And what it wasn't. This wasn't just about athleticism. It was ritual, political theater, cosmic reset button. Some matches may have ended in ceremony. Some possibly included sacrifices not necessarily of the losers, mind you. Historians still argue whether the winners seen as powerful and divine were offered as gifts to the gods. You don't know what will happen tonight. But as the drums quiet and the sweat-slicked players bow to the altar, you understand the real outcome. The world was just put back in balance, at least for today. You lean against the warm stone of the court wall, the sun dropping low. Your ears ring with drum beats. Your eyes follow the ball one last time now, resting like a full moon in a shallow basket. And in the hush that follows victory, you breathe deep. The game is over, but the rhythm still playing. The air is still warm, but the noise of the ball game has faded, replaced by something gentler. Soft chants the clack of wooden styluses on bark and the rustle of cotton tunics against stone benches. You're stepping into a Maya classroom, guy. Not your standard chalkboard and detention variety. This is a school for the elite, and the lessons are more celestial than algebraic. Though you still might leave with sore fingers and a newfound respect for stargazing. Education in the Maya world wasn't for everyone. It was mostly reserved for the nobility children of scribes, priests, lords, and the occasional overachieving artisan. Common folk learned their trades at home, passed down through repetition and calloused hands. But here knowledge is ceremonial, and you lucky sleeper get to audit the class. You duck under a low lintel into a small chamber where 5 students sit cross-legged, each with a folded codex in their lap. A teacher, a priest, or a senior scribe paces slowly, pointing occasionally to a carved diagram of the Milky Way etched into the wall with a sharp obsidian tip. Lesson of the day: celestial timing. Venus has just risen as the morning star, and the entire city has been keeping track. Why? Because Venus mattered. It wasn't just pretty, it marked moments for war ritual and celebration. One boy nervously recites a glyph describing a previous Venus cycle. He stumbles, the others snicker. The teacher raises an eyebrow. Everyone becomes very interested in their codices. The curriculum here includes more than astronomy, though. These students study calendar cycles, 260 dates Solkin, 265-day Hob, and the mighty long count. Glyph writing more than 800 symbols, each one packed with story, sound, and style. Genealogies, who ruled whom, who married what, and how to remember all that without a family tree app. Diplomatic etiquette, how to present a gift bow properly and navigate city-state rivalries without accidentally causing a war over chili paste. One girl stands and begins to chant a myth, the story of the hero twins, who descended into the underworld and outwitted the lords of death through trickery, sacrifice, and a very persuasive squash. The class listens, nodding. The rhythm is right, the pronunciation crisp. You hum along without knowing the words. And while the teacher instructs, learning is physical too. Students use styluses to press glyphs into clay. They recite aloud, pacing in slow circles to the beat of a small drum. Learning here isn't silent, it's embodied. You glance at the shelves, wooden racks holding ink pots, sheets of bark, and small figurines used for teaching mythology or possibly just for fun. One of them is a bat god with surprisingly fashionable earrings. The atmosphere is serious but not harsh. Mistakes are corrected but gently. Curiosity is encouraged. One student asks how to write storm in the west using just 3 glyphs. Another wonders if Venus and the maize god are related. A third announces that the cacao beans in the offering bowl have ants, and the class breaks into delighted chaos. The teacher sighs, smiles, gets back to the lesson. Historians still debate whether these schools were formal institutions or extensions of temple life. You're inclined to think they were both structured sacred and surprisingly fun. As the sun begins to set, the students pack up their codices. Each one bows to the teacher. Each one places their stylus in a woven pouch hands, steady from practice. Tomorrow they'll return to learn how to count eclipses, chart dynasties, or recite the names of cities that no longer exist but still live on in song. You step outside with them. The sky is deepening. Venus glows proud and punctual, and the students scatter into the evening heads, full of stars, mouths full of recitations, futures full of carved stone and carefully chosen words. You sit down on a cool step codex still in hand, and whisper the glyph for rest. You think you got it right. Someone's roasting chili. You can smell it before you round the corner, sharp, smoky, and eye-watering in that oddly satisfying way. But this isn't a cooking class, guy. It's a chemistry test for marriage, and whether you know it or not, you've just stumbled into the ancient art of Maya matchmaking. Tonight, we dive into love courtship and the chili test, because in this world, romantic compatibility sometimes comes down to your spice tolerance. You find yourself in a quiet courtyard shaded by cacao trees. A teenage boy stands nervously beside a low stone bench. Across from him, a girl with braids down to her waist pretends not to notice him, even as she sprinkles ground chili into a steaming cup of chocolate. This is the test. He must drink, not wince, not cough, not cry. And if he does, well, let's just say it's not looking good for the dowry negotiations. But let's back up. Maya marriages were often arranged especially among the nobility. Families consulted daykeepers to choose favorable wedding dates based on the sacred calendar. Birth signs, omens, and the social ladder were all taken into account. Still, that didn't mean the bride and groom had no say. There were courting rituals, some elaborate, some adorably awkward. Gifts were exchanged cotton cloth, shell jewelry, or spindles carved with flirtatious glyphs. If you were lucky, maybe even a parrot trained to say something suggestive like, nice tunic, subtle. Songs were sung, poems recited. And then in some villages came the chili test. The idea was simple. The girl would prepare a strong, chili-laced cacao drink. The boy had to sip it stoically. It was said to show strength, patience, and a sense of humor. Fail, and the gods and everyone watching would take it as a sign. You sit beside an elder who whispers that she once added 3 chilies to her test brew. Her suitor turned red and proposed before his eyebrows stopped sweating. Marriage, once agreed upon, was celebrated with feast songs and the weaving of 2 families, literally and figuratively. Textiles were exchanged. Land sometimes shifted hands. And after the ceremony, often held at the bride's house, the groom might live with her family for several years. A kind of matrilocal internship, proving himself useful before fully joining the couple's own household. You watch as an older couple passes by, fingers interlaced. He carries a basket. She scolds him for buying overpriced squash. They laugh. Clearly he passed his chili test. Back at the bench, the boy takes his sip. He doesn't flinch, but he blinks once. The girl tilts her head. She's intrigued. Progress. Historians still argue how widespread the chili test actually was. Some say it's more legend than record. But the spirit of it remains. Romance here was ritual, but also playful, full of nuance and negotiation. Love wasn't a whirlwind. It was a process, a weaving. You step away, the scent of chili still in your nose, the buzz of cacao in your brain, and somewhere deep in your chest, the soft thrum of music beginning flutes, drums, voices rising in a song that might be about marriage or might just be about good chocolate. Hard to say. You close your eyes, breathe in the spice, and smile. Because whether or not you pass the test, you're part of the story now. You wake to the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps on stone. Not marching, not running, just walking. And somehow the most powerful thing you've heard all day. Because this morning, Guy, you're tracing time itself, following the arc of a calendar so precise, so poetic, and so profoundly patient, it outlived entire empires. Welcome to the Maya understanding of time. It's not linear, it's circular, layered, woven like cloth, and it starts always with its sulkin. You're standing in a sunlit courtyard where a daykeeper, a calm ancient figure wrapped in cotton, and wisdom sits beside a circle of carved stones. Around him, apprentices recite the 260-day sacred calendar, a cycle of 20-day names paired with numbers from 1 to 13. Today is 12 Kaib. What does that mean? It depends. For some, it's a good day to plant. For others, a better day to stay inside and weave something intricate. Every combination carries meaning, personality, purpose. It's not superstition, it's structure. Imagine if every day had its own name job and personal horoscope, and also a favorite chili recipe. That's the tzolk'in. But it doesn't stop there. Paired with it is the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar made of 18 months of 20 days plus a curious 5-day leftover period called Wayeb, where the world goes weird. During Wayeb, people stayed home, made fewer decisions, avoided risky business like travel teeth filing or arguing with jaguars. Because those 5 days unstable, like the calendar exhaling. Then there's the long count. This one isn't about seasons or omens. It's cosmic. It tracks all time starting from a mythical creation date, August 11th, 3114 BCE, and moving forward in cycles called backtunes, each one about 394 years long. We're talking generational math. You walk past a temple wall etched with the date 13.04 Zhaomyo. That date, December 21st, 2012. No, it wasn't the apocalypse. Just the end of one cycle, the start of another. Historians still argue whether that date marked a new age in the Maya worldview or if it was more like a cosmic reset button. But in this courtyard under this sun, it feels peaceful. Like someone turning a great wheel with care. The Maya didn't fear time. They partnered with it, watched it move like stars across water. You sit beside the daykeeper. He nods at you and points to a glyph carved in the stone. Aja, he says, the sun, a day of leadership. You raise your eyebrows. He smirks. Don't let it go to your head. A younger apprentice brings a bowl of water and a sheet of bark paper dampened for easier writing. She practices drawing the date glyphs. You try one. It looks like a chicken dancing on a mushroom. You add an extra swirl. Now it's intentional. Time here isn't just counted. It's honored. Maya homes had calendar markers scratched into doorposts. Markets opened on auspicious days. Marriages waited for the right signs. Even battles could be postponed if the calendar warned of bad luck. You close your eyes for a moment. Feel the sun on your face. Hear the soft scrape of stone on bark. This isn't just a calendar. It's a lullaby of the universe. Predictable, patterned, patient. You lie back against a warm step watching the sky shift from mid-morning to maybe late morning, but not quite noon. And think about days, how they rise, fall, return, and carry us gently ever onward in circles too vast to rush. You wake to the sound of rhythmic laughter and the mouth-watering aroma of something sizzling over an open flame. Someone's chopping herbs with a stone blade. Someone else is singing a soft tune about squash and stars. Tonight, Guy, you're about to attend a Maya feast, and it's going to be warm, fragrant, and exactly the kind of dinner party where you're expected to help grind the corn before you eat it. Hope you're hungry. The feast is being prepared in a central courtyard framed by wooden posts, wrapped in woven cloth, hanging lanterns, swaying gently in the evening breeze. The ground has been swept clean, the hearth glows low, and a flat stone has been cleared for dancing later. Before anything else, though, mace, because no feast begins without it. Two women kneel at a pair of grinding stones, metates, their hands steady as they rock the mano back and forth, crushing soaked kernels into fine, damp masa. The rhythm is hypnotic. Shh, shh, shh. You offer to help. They look at your soft hands and smile gently. You're handed a small bowl of epizot leaves to tear instead. It's fair. Elsewhere in the courtyard, someone stirs a pot of stew thick with beans, pumpkin, tomato, and roasted rabbit. The smell is comforting, earthy, like something that would fix you even if you weren't broken. Near the fire, someone is steaming tamales wrapped in banana leaves, not corn husks, and filled with a rich mixture of ground meat, squash seeds, and the sort of spices that leave a gentle trail of fire down your throat. And on a special platter, resting on a bed of red leaves, sits the guest of honor. A whole turkey, slow-roasted skin, crisp with a honey chili glaze and feathers replaced by carved flowers. A rare delicacy. This is no ordinary dinner. It's a celebration. But what are we celebrating? It could be anything. A good harvest, a successful trade deal, a naming ceremony, or just the fact that the stars aligned and someone found extra cacao. In Maya culture, food was more than nutrition. It was ritual, offering, memory. A meal wasn't just shared, it was performed. You glance to the side where a woman kneels by a small altar, placing the first tortilla of the batch beside a bowl of cacao as an offering. The gods, after all, eat first. Next come the drinks. Thick cacao mixed with chili and cornmeal. Fermented balche served in gourd cups tasting like wildflowers and thunder. And a maize-based drink called atole, creamy and warm with a hint of honey. You take a sip of each. You regret none of it. The guests arrive slowly, family, neighbors, scribes, and at least one suspiciously noble-looking person who brings his own stool. No judgment. They sit in loose circles, some on mats, others on low stone steps. Then come the dancers. Not performers really, just people who finished helping in the kitchen and now circle the fire in painted tunics, moving with the kind of grace that only comes after decades of knowing every step and letting the music do the thinking. The music is all flutes, rattles, and drums, mellow, steady, carrying the scent of tamales through the dusk like a lullaby with rhythm. You're handed a bowl of stew. You take a bite, and everything firelight conversation, the cool stone beneath you, suddenly sharpens into the kind of comfort that feels ceremonial. Historians still debate whether these gatherings were formalized or spontaneous. From your seat beside the maize pot, it doesn't matter. What matters is this. The food is warm. The people are laughing. The night is soft around the edges. And your belly, like your heart, is full. A woman leans over and offers you a second tamale. You accept. Because here in the glow of the fire and the scent of chili and smoke, you understand, feasting is not about excess. It's about belonging, and you guessed or not belong, at least until the dancing starts. Then all bets are off. You wake up in the soft blue hush before dawn when even the birds are whispering and the smoke from last night's fire still clings low to the ground. The feast has ended, the musicians have slept, and only a few souls are awake. One of them is you. The other is a quiet old woman arranging bones in a blanket. Tonight, Guy, you're sitting beside a hearth at the edge of town, where stories about death ancestors and talking skulls are told, not with fear, but with respect. And yes, a bit of eerie affection. Because in the Maya world, death isn't the end. It's just a different part of the story. You shuffle closer to the fire. The coals crackle, throwing shadows that dance like ghosts across the woman's face. She doesn't flinch. She's been doing this for decades, offering morning prayers to ancestors, polishing skulls, and occasionally scolding spirits for bad behavior. The bones before her aren't random. They're ancestral relics, sacred, honored, consulted. This is not macabre. This is family maintenance. The Maya saw the line between life and death as permeable. Ancestors weren't buried and forgotten. They were fed remembered and in some cases spoken with. Their bones were kept in family homes or shrines not as trophies but as conduits. That skull, that's Tada Ajah, great-grandfather warrior maker of fine fishing nets and occasional dream visitor. He gets copal smoke, a pinch of salt, and a cup of fresh cacao. No milk, no sugar. He always hated that. You watch as the woman fans the smoke gently toward the skull. Not for effect for etiquette. The underworld known as Xibalba wasn't a fiery place but a labyrinth, a challenge. A journey with rivers of blood, houses of jaguars, and one suspiciously deadly ball court. Getting through it took cunning strength and a little supernatural help. This belief was stitched into everyday life. Children heard stories of the hero twins, mythical brothers, who tricked the lords of Xibalba and brought balance back to the world. Their tale was epic funny and a little gross. Everyone knew it. You think of it now. The twins descending facing trials. The House of Cold. The House of Knives. Winning a rigged ball game. Becoming the sun and moon. It's the kind of bedtime story that leaves you wide-eyed but weirdly hopeful. Death wasn't feared, it was navigated. With rituals, offerings, and deep daily remembrance. You glance around the hearth. Offerings sit on small stone shelves. Maize tiny bowls of water, bits of clothing, even a carved flute. You pick it up, blow softly. It wheezes a note that sounds like a frog sighing in its sleep. A good sign, apparently. The woman nods. Sometimes she says they answer. You ask how. She shrugs. Dreams, wind, falling leaves, or just a feeling. They're subtle. You sip your cacao and watch as the sun slips a finger of light over the temple steps. Morning comes gently. The skulls Tada Ajo Abuela Ixchel and one simply labeled Uncle Not to be Trusted catch the glow. For a moment they look expectant. Historians still argue how widespread these practices were. Some claim ancestor veneration was mostly elite. Others insist it was village-deep, homegrown, stitched into the very rhythm of daily cooking and weaving. Here, watching the woman tuck a blanket around her skulls like children, it feels obvious. This wasn't about class. It was about continuity. You weren't alone. You never really were. The ancestors watched. Not to judge, to guide, to nudge your dreams. To remind you that this path, your life, was one chapter in a story that wound backward through time, held in bones, remembered in names, and sometimes whispered through the smoke of morning fire. You finish your drink, bow your head slightly, and whisper thanks into the coals, just in case someone's listening. You squint up at the sun already sharp overhead and wipe a bead of sweat from your forehead. Around you, the steady chink, chink, chink of stone on stone echoes like a heartbeat in slow motion. A row of men, barefoot, sun-browned, and patient, are chipping away at a massive limestone block, one sliver at a time. Today, Guy, you're helping to build a pyramid. With no metal tools, no wheels, no beast of burden, just limestone leverage and sheer architectural stubbornness. And yet, it's working. The base of the pyramid is already in place, layered like a wedding cake, made entirely of sun-dried ambition. Above you, scaffolds of logs and vines zigzag up the stepped facade. Workers move slowly, deliberately calling out to each other in short, rhythmic chants. One man hands you a stone chisel, not made of iron, but of obsidian or jadeite, polished smooth and sharp as intent. Next to you, another laborer uses a hammerstone to tap out a straight edge. The result is clean, geometric, almost smug. This isn't chaos. It's choreography. The Maya built without metal tools, yes. But they mastered limestone, a soft rock when freshly quarried, hardening with exposure. They cut it with precision, hauled it with wooden rollers, and lifted it using ramps and sheer human force. You're handed a plumb bob, a simple weight dangling from a string, and told to check the angle of the stones already set. It's surprisingly effective. Maya engineers understood gravity water levels and pressure points like modern-day structural physicists minus the CAD software. A foreman calls out a blessing. The new stone is lifted into place with ropes pulls and 5 men singing under their breath. The song isn't just for motivation, it's a timing mechanism. Every verse tells them when to pull, when to pause, when to place. Higher up, a different team carves glyphs into already set panels. Their subject, a king's ascension, a solar alignment, or a toad god who once won an argument with the moon. You can't read it all, but the curves and dots speak with elegance. A scribe nearby leans over and whispers, that one says he came from the east. Possibly also he stole my turkey. Depends on the verb form. You believe him. What were these pyramids for? Temples, tombs, observatories. Historians still debate it. Many were likely multi-use sacred spaces above burial chambers below, and the whole structure designed to mimic mountains, spiritual landmarks connecting earth to sky. At the top of the pyramid being built today, there will be a temple, a small room with a single doorway facing the rising sun. It will house a god, or the memory of a god or a king who became a god. It happens. But down here, down where the limestone dust coats your skin, where each block weighs more than a fully grown jaguar and smells faintly of ancient oceans, it's about teamwork, and trust, and timing. A child runs past carrying a gourd of water. She splashes some on a worker's back. He nods his thanks. You steal a sip. It tastes of river clay and kindness. Later in the day, the work pauses for a quick ritual, offering a bit of maize, a drop of cacao, a whispered prayer pressed into the stone before it vanishes behind another layer. Even now, the Maya believe their buildings are alive. Breathing. Remembering. You press your palm against a newly placed block still warm from sunlight. It feels solid, heavy, ancient, like something that will outlive everyone here. You lie back on a finished step, listening to the tapping, the chants, the slow logic of stone rising into sky. No engines, no nails, just people, memory, and gravity doing its part. It's quiet again, but not empty. The sun hangs just a little lower now, spilling soft gold across the flagstones. Somewhere nearby, someone's humming a low tune that sounds like a lullaby, half remembered and half invented. And then she steps into view. Wrapped in embroidered cotton head, held high jade beads clinking gently as she walks. This guy is a Maya queen, and today you'll walk a mile or a ceremonial procession in her sandals, which are very nice, by the way. You follow her at a distance, respectful enough not to offend, but close enough to study the slow majesty of her movement. Her hair is tightly braided, coiled into a crown pinned with bone combs and feathers. Her ear spools shine like green suns. Her huipil, a richly woven tunic, is stitched with designs that tell the story of her lineage, her marriage, and, according to one gossipy attendant, her very firm opinion on eclipse omens. Her day begins not with luxury but ritual. A bowl of water is poured over her hands infused with crushed herbs, likely marigold copal ash and sweetwood bark. She breathes in the steam. It's not about cleanliness, it's about clarity. Queens weren't just royal arm candy. They were diplomats, ritual experts, matriarchs, and in some cities co-rulers with real political clout. This queen, let's call her Ix-Kabul, like one of the legendary queens of El Peru Waka, has an entire schedule more packed than any scribe's codex. You shadow her as she oversees an offering to Ixchel, goddess of the moon and fertility. Reviews tribute items brought by merchants, textiles, obsidian honey, and a suspiciously large pumpkin. Meets with a visiting noblewoman from a rival city. They talk trade and subtext. Watches a short performance by school children reciting creation myths. She claps once, slowly, perfectly. After that, a quick chocolate break. You're ushered into a shaded pavilion where a servant whisks up a frothy cacao drink, spiced with chili and sweetened with bee honey. She sips, sighs, and makes a small note on a bark paper tablet. probably raiding the foam. It's delicious. You get one too. You're a guest of the mat. But don't get too relaxed. Queens weren't just ceremonial figures, they handled the hard stuff. If war was brewing, she helped negotiate peace or prepared for battle. If the gods seemed restless, she led the ritual purification fasting for days, offering blood flowers or sacred cloth. If the maize crop faltered, she joined the high priest in prayers beneath the temple arch. Historians still debate how much power Maya queens had. In some city-states, they were largely symbolic. In others, they wielded influence equal to kings commanding armies, directing temple construction, and starring in monumental inscriptions carved into stone. One such stela stands in the center of this plaza, etched with the outline of this queen's life, her birth glyph, her parentage the day she married, the day she named a successor. You brush your hand across it and feel the grooves like ancient pulse points. As the day stretches, she retreats to her compound. There in the weaving room, she joins a circle of women working on an enormous textile and offering for an upcoming festival. She takes up a shuttle and begins weaving without a word. The rhythm is practiced, familiar, soothing. Even queens weave. You sit nearby watching the thread cross back and forth, catching the light like water. A servant brings sliced avocado with lime. You accept with a nod. Life is good. And as dusk begins to gather at the temple's edge, the queen rises. One more ritual before the stars arrive. A bowl of incense is placed on a small altar. She steps forward, lifts it, and offers it to the cardinal directions north, south, east, west, then turns her face upward toward the first evening star. Venus again, watching, witnessing. You sit with her there in the silence, not speaking, not needing to, because even in stillness, even wrapped in ritual and politics and duty, a queen is never truly alone. She's surrounded by memory, by meaning, by motion woven into every step, gesture, and breath. You lean back against a cool stone pillar and watch her silhouette fade into night, and feel deeply that presence isn't just about power. It's about purpose. A low growl wakes you, but it's not the kind that means trouble. It's the kind that vibrates softly through the floor, rolls through the trees, and announces the presence of something majestic and furry. Because this morning, Guy, you're sharing your breakfast courtyard with a howler monkey, a domesticated one. Well, sort of. In the Maya world, the line between wild and tame was porous, more suggestion than rule. Today, you're learning how humans and animals shared homes roles and sometimes even dreams in ways that modern pet owners can only aspire to. Let's meet the menagerie. First, your current companion. The howler monkey swings lazily from a wooden beam, clutching a half-eaten papaya and staring at you with mild judgment. His name might be something like Balu, and he was probably raised from infancy by one of the scribes. Monkeys, after all, were associated with creativity, art, and mischief. You've seen them painted on murals alongside musicians and scribes occasionally with quills tucked behind their ears like tiny professors. And when they weren't stealing fruit, they were probably imitating the gods. Then there are the turkeys. Not just dinner options, though. They did end up in the stew pot from time to time, but also ritual birds with beautiful plumage, bold personalities, and an alarming knack for intimidation. One struts by you now puffed up like royalty feathers, iridescent in the sun. He pauses. Stares. You move aside. He approves. Next up, dogs. Small, slightly wiry, often hairless, and frequently referred to in glyphs and stories. Some were bred for companionship, some for food, and some as spiritual guides believed to help souls cross over into the afterlife. You spot one now, curled in the shade of a shrine, eyes half-closed, ears twitching at distant cicadas. Macaws squawk from perches above. Deer tamish and kept in small pens for festivals or feasting sniff around garden edges. And over in a shaded hut, someone's coaxing a jaguar cub to sit still, long enough for a necklace fitting. This isn't common, but it happens, especially among nobles with access to jungle trade routes and very confident animal handlers. Maya people lived close to nature not just physically, but spiritually. Animals weren't background noise. They were messengers, symbols, sometimes companions with roles in myth and ritual. The jaguar, for example, wasn't just a powerful predator, it was a night creature, a symbol of the underworld of royal lineage of the gods that prowled behind the stars. Priests wore jaguar pelts during ceremonies, believing they were channeling those cosmic forces. And some people believed they had animal soul twins, a concept known today as Wayub Wa Yobe. These spirit companions could appear in dreams and visions, or sometimes in the real world, when you least expected them. Maybe the dog that follows you for days, or the snake that seems oddly protective. Historians still debate how literally this was taken. But for the Maya, the spiritual and the physical weren't in separate categories. They coexisted like howler monkeys and altars, like cacao and bloodletting rituals. You wander past a pen of bees, stingless sacred bees kept in log hives and coaxed for their honey wax and symbolic sweetness. The keeper hums to them, gently tapping the wood as he walks past. You swear they hum back. A child runs up proudly, showing off his iguana on a leash made of braided grass. You give it a respectful nod. You've learned your lesson about reptiles with attitude. And as the morning deepens into lazy warmth, you find a quiet spot beneath the fruit tree where a pair of parrots argue above your head. The howler monkey returns, sits beside you, and peels a mango with surprisingly delicate fingers. You don't say anything. He nods once. It's enough. Because here in a world where gods take animal form, where turkeys strut like nobles, and dogs lead souls to the stars, cohabiting with creatures isn't eccentric, it's expected. You share food space dreams. And if your dreams tonight include feathers, fur, or claws, that's just Maya hospitality evening again. The sun slips low over the stone horizon, painting the temples in honeyed light, every edge glowing like the embers of the fire that's already been lit in the plaza. The wind hums softly through palm leaves. Someone's grinding cacao. Someone else is fanning the coals. And you guy are walking slowly into twilight by the temple fires where the city exhales. The gods blink open their eyes and the stories stretch long into the night. The mood has changed. It's not the bustle of market day or the discipline of scribal training. It's gentler now, looser. The city's heartbeat slows. You join a small group gathered around a low ceremonial flame at the base of a pyramid. A priestess feeds it slivers of copal resin, each piece crackling as it hits the coals, sending up fragrant smoke that curls like script against the dusk. Children sit cross-legged near the fire, wide-eyed. Elders sip warm atole from clay cups. Everyone listens, because it's story time. A storyteller steps forward. Not a priest, not a noble. Just an old man with a voice like worn bark and a laugh that bubbles out between sentences like frogs after a rainstorm. He doesn't begin with "once upon a time." He begins with "you already know this one." Everyone smiles. He tells of the moon goddess who fell in love with the maize. God married a jaguar and eventually turned into a river. He adds new details, teases the children when they guess the ending, then winks at you like you've just passed an initiation. The fire pops. Stars arrive. And behind you, high on the temple steps, a flute begins to play slow, breathy, uncertain at first, then growing stronger with each note. It's not a performance. It's a conversation between air and stone. Nearby women sit weaving under torchlight. The fibers glide through their fingers without looking. The patterns already live in their minds. Every thread a prayer, every knot a sentence. Someone passes a dish of roasted squash. You accept it without speaking. It's still warm. The plaza smells of earth and spice and slightly overcooked tamale. High above the temple's shadow stretches across the ground like a gentle hand. You glance up and see a shape perched on the edge, just a stone carving of a feathered serpent. Kukulkan, but lit just right so its eyes seem to follow you. You nod politely. It doesn't blink, but you feel acknowledged. Historians often focus on the grandeur of Maya architecture, the alignment of pyramids with solstices, the hidden tombs, the secret passageways. But here in the hush of twilight, you feel what really held it together. Presence. People sat beneath these stones, laughed, listened, whispered to each other, and when the night grew dark and the fire low, they tucked themselves into mats, their breath slow and steady as the temple watched over them. No steel, no glass, no neon signs, just smoke, silence, and stone that remembered every footstep. You close your eyes for a moment and hear it all. The flute's soft echo, the old man's voice trailing into the stars, the sound of a spoon scraping the bottom of a gourd, and beneath it all the breath of the jungle. Deep, even, as if the whole city is breathing with you. You stay by the fire until only embers remain. You don't need words now, just warmth, and the slow, sacred knowledge that day has ended and you've lived it well. Dawn returns, the way a shy visitor enters a room softly on padded feet, nudging open the door with pale fingers of light. The fire is now a low cradle of ash. Around it, bundles of cloth and half-empty cups hint at last night's stories and the warmth that lingered long after they ended. You rise slowly, bones stiff from sitting too long, and stretch toward the rising sun, which peeks now over the pyramid tops like a sleepy eye. Today, Guy, we take our final steps. We walk together through everything you've seen, heard, touched, and consider for a moment why the Maya still matter. Not in the abstract, not as a dusty subject in someone else's history book, but here now, in what we carry, in what we remember, and what we choose to build. You leave the plaza and walk through the quiet city, past homes still veiled in mist, past maize fields slick with dew, past stones that feel warm even before the sun has properly woken up. The sounds return slowly, roosters crowing, tortilla dough being patted flat, someone singing softly off-key while brushing their hair with a carved bone comb. And it's here among these gentle rhythms that you see what truly endured. Yes, the cities declined. Temples became swallowed by jungle, the great dynasties gave way. But the people never disappeared. Their descendants still live here. In the Yucatan, in Guatemala, in Chiapas, in Belize, they still speak Maya languages. They still cook with maize chili and cacao. They still weave patterns passed down from ancestors who watch the stars more closely than clocks. Some still plant according to the sacred calendar. Some still honor the bones of their grandparents with offerings of copal tortillas and whispered dreams. Even in cities far away across oceans, their stories remain etched in stone, echoed in architecture, and folded into our understanding of time, math, myth, and meaning. Historians still debate the reasons behind the classic Maya collapse overpopulation drought. Warfare, political fragmentation, but collapse isn't erasure, it's transformation. And the Maya transformed. They adapted, persisted, flourished in new forms. You pass a child crouched at the base of a small altar, placing 3 cacao beans beside a flower. You don't interrupt. This is not a performance. It's continuity. At the edge of the forest, a path opens. It's narrow, winding, familiar in a way you can't explain. You take one last look back at the city. Its plazas, its people, its soft song of smoke and stone, and step into the trees. The jungle welcomes you, not as a tourist, but as someone who listened, who stayed long enough to hear more than facts, who tasted the story, and let it change the rhythm of your breath. You walk on, carrying their sky, their numbers, their gods with feathered tails and too many teeth, their laughter, their calm, their patience, and somewhere tucked in your memory like a shell in your pocket, the whisper of a howler monkey stealing fruit behind you. You smile. You'll tell someone about that someday. Maybe by a fire, maybe in a story that starts. You already know this one, and they will smile too. Because by then the Maya will matter to them as much as they do to you. Let your breath slow now. Let the trees close behind you gently like a curtain drawn at the end of a soft play. You've wandered far tonight through temples and market stories and meals across stone plazas and jungle paths, and into the quiet spaces where memory still lingers like smoke in morning air. You've sat by the fire with ancestors, laughed with children splashing at the river, drank bitter chocolate beside queens and weavers and scribes who remembered the shape of the stars. You've seen how time doesn't just pass, it spirals. How a single seed of maize can hold a calendar, a god, and a recipe for tamales all at once. And now your body is quiet, your mind soft, your eyes heavy. You lie down beneath a sky that remembers stories older than empire, older than maps. Above you, the stars trace paths known to daykeepers long gone but never forgotten. Below you, the earth hums with the warmth of temples and the laughter of people who built pyramids without metal but with math and music and faith in something larger than themselves. Sleep comes like mist, not all at once, but in layers, in the way the calendar wraps around again, in the way the fire always remembers how to start. You've made the journey, guy, and now you rest. The city fades into dream. The gods nod gently. The ancestors smile. And I'll be here with another story for you tomorrow night.